The first signs came as a quiet hum in the atmosphere, something no one noticed at first, just another strange anomaly. But it grew louder, like a distant rumble, getting closer every minute. The world was oblivious to what was happening in the skies above them, until it was too late. The broadcast came suddenly, cutting through every communication channel known to humanity. It was a voice, cold and mechanical one, that echoed across every corner of the earth. Humanity, you have been found wanting. Your species has failed the tests of time and space. You are weak. Your world is weak. You will submit or face extinction. The choice is yours. The words hung in the air with chilling finality. Governments around the world scrambled to respond, each country reacting in their own way. Some called it a hoax, others dismissed it as a threat meant to incite fear, but none could deny the truth. When the alien fleet descended like a wave over Earth's cities, a sea of ships unlike anything human eyes had seen before, their advanced technology and weaponry more terrifying than anything humanity had ever dreamed of. Humanity had never faced an enemy like this, not in any of their wars, not even in their darkest moments had they ever encountered such overwhelming force. The alien ships were massive, towering structures that seemed to defy all laws of physics, their sleek surfaces glowing with unnatural energy. The fleet was vast, stretching across the sky. As far as the eye could see, every country, every government was paralyzed with fear as they realized that their weapons no longer stood a chance. The announcement came again, but this time it was clearer, more direct. We are the Psionic Dominion. Your civilization is at an end. Submit to our rule or be erased from existence. Panic spread like wildfire across the globe. Citizens watched in terror as their governments faltered. Military leaders tried to make sense of the situation, but none had answers. The entire planet was caught off guard. The dominoes began to fall as cities were obliterated by energy blasts that tore through buildings like paper. Nothing was safe, and no one knew where to turn. Yet amidst the chaos, there was something else, an unspoken realization that began to grow deep within the hearts of humanity. We will not bow to them. We will not let this be our end. In every corner of the earth, people began to rally together, refusing to cower under the weight of alien might. People who had never met before joined hands with the single goal of survival. They did not yet have the technology to fight back, but their spirit was unwavering. They would find a way. They had to. Scientists, engineers, and military experts gathered together to come up with a plan to resist the invaders. While the alien fleet hovered above the planet's surface, the resistance began to form, not with high-tech weapons or powerful armies, but with sheer ingenuity and determination. Humanity was down, but not out. They would find a way to survive. They had to. The first strike was swift and brutal. Nothing could prepare humanity for the sheer devastation the Psionic fleet unleashed as they began their assault. They struck without warning. Each blast from their ships sent shockwaves that rattled the Earth's core. Entire cities crumbled beneath the weight of their power. The sky was torn apart by brilliant flashes of energy as human defenses were wiped out in seconds. What remained of the world's military forces could only watch in horror as the Psionic forces began their march across the globe. There was no escape, no place to hide. Humanity was caught completely off guard. The resistance barely had time to form, and yet it was already too late. The invaders knew no mercy. They came for total domination, and they were succeeding. As the days passed, entire regions of the earth were reduced to ash. Survivors fled to underground bunkers or made their way through destroyed landscapes, seeking shelter from the unrelenting attacks. The Psionic strength seemed limitless. Their weapons and technology were far beyond anything humanity could comprehend. They were not just invaders, they were conquerors who had swept through countless worlds before. Earth now was no different to them. Yet even in the midst of this devastation, a spark of hope began to flicker. For the first time in their history, humanity had nowhere to turn, no way to survive except to fight back. And fight they did. What little remained of the military regrouped in secret bases as survivors began to form small pockets of resistance. They were not soldiers, but ordinary people who had witnessed their homes destroyed and loved ones taken from them. They had nothing left to lose and everything to gain. The first victory came by accident, when a small group of resistance fighters stumbled upon a piece of Psionic technology that was left behind during an attack. It wasn't much, But it was enough for them to see how it worked, enough to begin forming a plan to fight back. They quickly realized that the Psiac relied heavily on energy shields, and while their weapons were powerful, they had weaknesses too. The Resistance adapted quickly, using their knowledge of Earth's terrain and their ingenuity to craft makeshift weapons and traps. They knew they could not match the Psiac in terms of power, but they could outsmart them. And that's exactly what they did. Each attack was calculated, each ambush meticulously planned. The first few victories were small, but they were enough to send a message to the invaders. Humans were not just going to lay down and die. News of these victories spread across the world like wildfire, and for the first time in weeks, people began to believe that perhaps there was hope. Maybe they could stand a chance. The Psiac might have had the power to destroy cities, but humanity had the power to outlast them. They had something the Psiac never could understand, something that could not be measured by weapons or technology. It was the spirit of resistance, the will to survive. With each passing day, the Resistance grew in numbers and strength. Scientists, engineers, and former soldiers began to collaborate on ways to fight back. Using the alien technology they had salvaged, humanity's hope began to rise, and the Psiac soon realized that they had made a grave mistake. They thought humanity would crumble under their might, but instead they had awakened a force they could not comprehend. The momentum began to shift in unexpected ways as the Resistance grew more coordinated and determined. The Psiac could no longer rely solely on their overwhelming firepower. They had underestimated the ingenuity of humanity. Their initial belief that humans would crumble under pressure had proven to be a fatal mistake. Humanity had a way of adapting and evolving under the harshest conditions. As the Resistance carried out more daring raids across the world, they started to see cracks in the Psiac's seemingly invincible armor. While the alien forces were technologically superior, they had never encountered an enemy that could think as quickly or as creatively as humans could. Using captured alien technology and old human military tactics, the Resistance launched small attacks designed to confuse and overwhelm the Psiac. In one key operation, a group of Resistance fighters sabotaged an entire Psiac command center by infiltrating it and using their knowledge of human-made explosives to destroy key power sources. The Psiac never saw it coming. The attack caused a ripple effect that disrupted their entire communication network. The Resistance managed to escape without a single casualty, leaving the Psiac scrambling to repair the damage. This success was more than just a victory. It was a turning point. It proved that humanity had a chance against their invaders. They weren't going to give up without a fight. The Psiac began to panic, and for the first time they questioned their ability to conquer this world. Their once perfect strategy was starting to fall apart. Meanwhile, humanity was beginning to push back in more aggressive ways. Secret bases were built in underground bunkers and hidden parts of the world where the Psiac could not reach. Teams of scientists, engineers, and hackers worked tirelessly to develop new technology based on what little alien tech they could capture. Their greatest discovery came when a group of engineers stumbled upon a way to disable the Psiac's powerful energy shields, a technology that had previously seemed impossible to replicate. This discovery sparked a new wave of attacks against Psiac supply lines and bases across the globe. With the energy shields down, the Resistance launched coordinated strikes that took down the invaders' most crucial infrastructure. The Psiac were forced to retreat from several key locations as their once unstoppable force began to lose ground. It was then that humanity's true strength began to shine. Their unity, their adaptability, and their unwavering belief that they would not be crushed by an alien empire. These qualities had fueled their resistance and were now beginning to break the Psiac's will to fight. As the resistance gained ground in various countries, the Psiac realized they were facing something they had never encountered before, a species that would not be bowed even in the face of certain death. Humanity's resilience was not something that could be measured by the strength of weapons alone. It was in the heart and soul of every person who refused to surrender. They had made the impossible possible, and in doing so they had turned the tide of the war. Now it was clear to everyone the Syak had underestimated humanity's ability to fight back, and the consequences of that mistake would soon become painfully clear. The Resistance's breakthrough came when a group of brilliant scientists managed to reverse engineer a piece of Syak technology they had captured during an earlier raid. It wasn't much, just a small fragment of an energy weapon, but it was enough to begin unraveling the mysteries of the Syak's advanced systems. The scientists worked around the clock studying the alien tech, trying to understand its core mechanics. With each passing day, they unlocked more secrets from the technology, giving humanity a fighting chance against their invaders. The discovery that the Syak relied heavily on energy shields became their greatest weakness. It was a breakthrough so simple yet so powerful. Humanity had figured out a way to neutralize their most devastating weapon. And this knowledge spread quickly among the Resistance. In every corner of the globe, teams of engineers began to build weapons that could disable the Syak shields with pinpoint precision. Their new plan was clear. The Syak had their firepower, but humanity had adaptability, and now they had a weapon to even the odds. As the Resistance's new weapon began to take shape, it was time to put it to the test. The first operation was a daring mission to infiltrate a heavily fortified Syak base, located deep in the mountains of the Rocky Range. The mission was high risk, but the stakes were even higher. If they could disable the Syak's command center and take down their power source, it would be a major blow to their operations. A small group of Resistance fighters led the charge through the mountainous terrain. Their mission was simple enough in theory: infiltrate the base, disable the shields, and get out without being detected. But nothing was ever simple when the Syak were involved. The Resistance team carefully planned their route, taking advantage of the rugged landscape to stay hidden. But as they neared the base, the team realized just how heavily fortified it truly was. The Syak had set up an impenetrable defense system that included advanced sensor grids and guard patrols across the perimeter. Their chances of making it inside seemed slim, but the Resistance had already outsmarted the Syak once, and they were determined to do it again. Using their knowledge of the alien tech, the Resistance team hacked into the sensor network and temporarily disabled the base's security systems long enough for them to slip past undetected. Once inside, they moved quickly and silently, planting explosives at key power points and data nodes across the base. The Syak were powerful, but they had become overconfident and had underestimated humanity's ability to strike fast and hard. By the time they realized what was happening, it was too late. The explosion rocked the entire base, knocking out their power and disabling the energy shields surrounding their command center. With the Syak defenses down, the Resistance fighters pushed forward, taking out the remaining guards and securing the data needed to disrupt the alien communications network. They left the base as swiftly as they arrived, leaving chaos in their wake. The attack was a success, but it was only the beginning. The Resistance now had the upper hand, and they planned to strike again and again until the Syak were brought to their knees. The Syak were in disarray. Their once unstoppable empire, now shaking at the foundations. Humanity had struck the first serious blow, but it would not be their last. The battle was far from over, but with each victory, humanity's hope grew stronger, and the Syak began to realize just how dangerous these so-called weak humans truly were. As the Resistance began to gain ground, their numbers swelled with each passing day. People from all walks of life joined the fight: scientists, engineers, soldiers, civilians, united by the common goal of survival. Humanity had found a way to fight back, and now they were growing stronger with each victory. The Syak were no longer the invincible force they had once appeared to be, and the Resistance had no intention of stopping. One by one, key Syak bases fell to the ingenuity of human tactics. Small groups of fighters disrupted their operations, hit them where it hurt, and disappeared before the enemy could retaliate. The Syak began to lose control of their strategic positions across the globe. Cities, once devastated by their attacks, were being reclaimed and rebuilt under the banner of Resistance forces. It was clear to everyone now that humanity's resolve had only grown stronger. Their resourcefulness had turned the tide of the war, and the Syak were struggling to understand how their perfect plan had unraveled so quickly. With every new victory, the Resistance gained more momentum, and the Syak felt the pressure mounting. Their once unified front began to show signs of fracture and division. Some commanders began to question the orders from their leaders, others whispered about retreating back to their homeworlds, but none of them were prepared for what was coming next. In the midst of their successes, humanity uncovered a horrifying secret. The Syak were planning to deploy a weapon unlike anything they had ever seen, a bioweapon designed specifically to target the human spirit, to break the very will of humanity to fight. The Syak believed that once the bioweapon was unleashed on Earth, the resistance would crumble under the weight of despair and hopelessness. They thought that humanity's greatest strength was its will to survive, but they had failed to recognize just how deeply that will ran. The weapon was set to be released in one of the world's largest cities, an area where the Syak had already destroyed much of the infrastructure, and where millions of survivors were still trying to rebuild. The resistance scrambled to find a way to stop the weapon before it could be unleashed. But as the clock ticked down, the odds seemed insurmountable. The Syak had created a powerful bioagent that could spread quickly and efficiently across the population, and it was only a matter of time before it would be deployed. However, humanity was not about to let their spirit be crushed that easily. A team of resistance members from various countries came together to develop a countermeasure using their newfound understanding of the Syak technology. They'd worked together day and night, developing a serum that would counteract the effects of the bioweapon. A race against time was underway, and every minute brought them closer to either victory or defeat. The day of the weapon's release arrived, and the Syak made their move. They launched the bioweapon into the heart of the city, releasing it into the air, where it would begin to infect the population. The resistance acted quickly, deploying their countermeasure into the city's ventilation systems just in time to halt the spread of the bioagent. Humanity had managed to prevent the weapon from breaking their spirit, but it came at a cost. The battle had left scars across the globe, and the war was far from over. The resistance had shown the Syak that they could not be so easily defeated, but more challenges lay ahead. Humanity had proven that no matter how powerful their enemy was, they would never give up. They would never stop fighting. They would not bow to anyone. Just when humanity began to believe that victory was within their grasp, the Syak revealed a new weapon, one far more terrifying than anything they had faced before. The bioweapon had been just the beginning. The Syak had developed a device that could crush the human spirit itself. It was not a physical weapon, but something far more insidious. It was a psychological weapon designed to break humanity from within. The device would release a signal across the globe, a signal that would cause every human who was exposed to it to experience an overwhelming sense of hopelessness, despair, and terror. The Syak believed that if they could destroy humanity's will to fight, they could win the war without lifting a single finger. They thought that once the human mind was shattered, the rest of humanity would fall in line and submit to their rule. The resistance had no idea how to stop it, but they knew they had to act quickly. The Syak had already begun deploying the signal across various locations around the world, and the effects were immediate. Entire populations were thrown into chaos. People in the streets froze in place, staring blankly ahead, their faces pale and lifeless. It was as though a fog had settled over the planet, a fog of fear that clouded the minds of all who were caught in it. In the midst of the panic, the resistance moved quickly. They knew that their best chance lay in finding the source of the signal and destroying it before it could spread further. They formed teams of elite fighters and scientists who could infiltrate the Syak's most secure locations and locate the device. Humanity had always been at a disadvantage when it came to technology, but they had learned to be clever and resourceful, and now they would need every bit of that ingenuity. As the resistance pushed forward, they encountered new challenges. The Syak were no longer fighting to conquer. They were fighting to break the very spirit of humanity. Their forces were more organized than ever before, and their advanced technology made them formidable opponents. But the resistance refused to give up. They had already fought against impossible odds, and they would continue to fight no matter the cost. In one particular operation, a small group of resistance fighters infiltrated a heavily guarded Syak facility hidden deep in a mountain range. The mission was risky. Their objective was to plant a virus into the Syak systems that would disable the signal and cut off their ability to spread it across the globe. The team faced overwhelming odds. The facility was surrounded by high-tech security systems and armed Psionic patrols at every turn, but they had no other choice. Working in the shadows, they crept past guards and slipped through security checkpoints, finally reaching the heart of the facility. Where the device was located, it was massive, a machine of terrifying complexity and power, and it was already emitting the signal that was breaking humanity's will. The team worked quickly, planting the virus into the device's core, and just as the Psionic forces closed in on them, they managed to trigger the virus. The device sputtered and whined as the virus took hold, and for a moment it seemed as though the world held its breath. Then the signal stopped. The fog of despair lifted. The humans who had been affected began to wake from their stupor, and the resistance fighters made their escape. The victory was bittersweet. The cost had been high, but humanity had once again shown that it would not be broken, no matter what the Psionic threw at them. As the world began to recover from the effects of the signal, the Psionic realized their plan had failed. They had underestimated humanity. Yet again, the resistance had struck back, and now they were more determined than ever to finish the fight. With the signal disabled, the resistance thought they had won a major victory, but they soon realized that the Psionic were not ones to surrender so easily. They had been planning their next move. Even before the psychological weapon had been deployed, the Psionic had one last trick up their sleeve. They had secretly activated a self-destruct sequence on their most powerful warships, and now they were preparing to unleash their ultimate weapon. The Psionic fleet had been lying dormant for months, but now they were poised to strike with unprecedented force. The self-destruct sequences were designed to cause a chain reaction that would obliterate entire continents. If allowed to reach full activation, the warships would trigger massive explosions that would devastate everything in their path. Their ships were so advanced that even if the resistance managed to strike them down, they would still unleash chaos on the Earth. Humanity's only hope was to prevent the self-destruct sequence from completing. The resistance launched a coordinated mission to infiltrate the Psionic fleet and disable the countdown timers before it was too late. Teams of skilled operatives were sent to different corners of the world where the Psionic ships had been stationed. Humanity knew they had little time and even less power to stop this new threat, but they would not let fear rule them. As the teams moved toward their objectives, they encountered more resistance than ever before. The Psionic had anticipated the human response and fortified their ships with even greater security. But despite these obstacles, the resistance fighters moved with purpose. They knew what was at stake, and they pushed through the Psionic defenses with sheer determination. In one particular mission, a small group of resistance fighters made their way aboard a massive Psionic warship located in the remains of a former capital city. The ship was surrounded by high-tech force fields and automated defense systems, but the team was equipped with newly developed tools from their allies in the scientific community. Their weapons had been upgraded to match the Psionic's technology, and they were ready to face whatever awaited them inside the massive ship. The team navigated through the dark corridors of the warship, avoiding detection and disabling security measures. As they went, finally, they reached the control room, where the self-destruct sequence was being initiated. The countdown clock glowed ominously on a central terminal, ticking away the seconds. Humanity had no more time to lose. If they failed now, the world would be lost forever. A tense silence filled the room as the team worked furiously to override the countdown timer. Every movement was precise, every second counted. One of the operatives worked on the main terminal, while the others kept watch for approaching Psionic patrols. They could hear the distant hum of the ship's engines and the ticking of the clock, as if the ship itself was holding its breath. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the override was successful. The countdown stopped. The self-destruct sequence was halted. Humanity had narrowly avoided disaster once again, but the battle was far from over. The Psionic were enraged by the loss of their warships, and their new plan to destroy humanity was in the works. It was clear that they would not stop until they had crushed every last human on Earth. As the resistance fighters escaped the warship, they knew they had won a hard-fought battle, but the war was far from over. Humanity had defied the odds again and again, but they were about to face their greatest challenge. Yet the Psionic would not rest until they had wiped out every last trace of resistance on Earth. but as long as there was breath in their bodies, humanity would keep fighting. As the resistance continued to grow stronger, the Syak began to realize that their perfect plan was crumbling. The relentless attacks from humanity were pushing them to the brink. They had underestimated the resolve and ingenuity of Earth's people, and now their once invincible empire was in chaos. Humanity had become the true threat, and the Syak could not handle it anymore. The final battle was nearing, and humanity was ready for it. The resistance knew that this was their last chance to strike a blow that would end the war once and for all. They had gathered their forces from across the globe and combined their knowledge and technology into a singular purpose to destroy the Syak once and for all. But they had learned that the Syak were not like any enemy they had faced before. They were ruthless and cunning, and their final weapon would be unlike anything humanity had ever seen. The resistance prepared for their most dangerous mission, yet to take the fight directly to the Syak homeworld. They would infiltrate their heavily guarded planet and disable the Syak's central command systems once and for all. Their objective was simple enough: destroy the source of the Syak's power and cripple their ability to wage war. But the risks were higher than ever before. No one knew if they would return from this mission alive. The operation began with precision and speed. The resistance fighters made their way across hostile space, traveling in hidden ships designed to blend in with the Syak fleet. They moved in silence through enemy territory, undetected. As they neared the Syak homeworld, they found themselves in the heart of enemy territory. The planet loomed ahead, shrouded in a sea of darkness, and the resistance knew they had only one shot at this. Infiltrating the Syak homeworld was no easy feat. The planet was surrounded by advanced shields and automated defense systems that could detect even the slightest disturbance. The resistance was forced to rely on their most skilled hackers and engineers to breach the security systems. They worked tirelessly to create distractions and disable defenses so that their forces could move undetected through the heavily fortified planet. Finally, after weeks of preparation, the resistance made it to the central command center deep within the Syak capital, the heart of their operations. It was there that the final battle would take place. The resistance fighters stormed the command center with everything they had, and the Syak met them with fury. They fought fiercely in a brutal clash of technology, and the Syak sent wave after wave of soldiers and drones to try and stop them. But the resistance would not be denied. As the battle raged on, the resistance fighters reached the core of the Syak command center and activated the device that would cripple their empire. They watched as the alien systems powered down one by one, and the Syak's ability to coordinate their forces was wiped out. The war was over. The Syak had been defeated, but humanity had paid a heavy price. The cost of the final battle was immense, but it was a price they were willing to pay to secure their future. As the dust settled and the last remnants of the Syak fleet scattered across the galaxy, humanity stood victorious. The survivors emerged from the ashes and began to rebuild a world that had once been lost. But this victory was not just for the resistance, it was for every person who had fought for their home, every life that had been lost, every sacrifice made along the way. Humanity had proven that no matter how impossible the odds, they would never submit, they would never be broken. Now, as the dust of battle settled, humanity looked to the stars once more, knowing that they were ready to face whatever challenges the universe might throw at them. They had not just survived the Syak invasion, they had overcome it, and they would continue to stand tall as a force to be reckoned with in the galaxy.